writers. It's Miranda Darrow, freelance fiction editor, and this is my weekly video about writing, editing, and the writing life. Special for this week, I have written a poem called Writing Resolutions for the New Year by me, Miranda Darrow. This is a somewhat autobiographical, but largely humorous take on the writing life. So here we go. First, you decide to write a novel. You tell your friends and family and coworkers that you hope to become a full-time author by this time next year. You line up all of your office supplies. You brainstorm for weeks. You come up with a great idea for your story. Out of excuses, you actually start writing your novel. And you write 50 pages. Congratulations! You are now a writer. You have written, so therefore you are a writer. You read it and you start changing things. Your words count starts going backwards. And you're actually wondering, am I a writer or am I an eraser? Oh no, you're still a writer. You rename your main character from Lori to Myrtle using global replace. You accidentally realize that you've changed the word Florida to Flomurdial in the process. You learn how to use match font for find and replace. And you vow to never again name a character Will unless you will never, ever, ever consider changing it. And then you realize that you have two characters named Will, plus a William and a Liam in your current work in progress. You go to a baby name website to come up with new ideas for your character names. And then you start getting ads for baby supplies because Google is spying on you and it thinks that you're looking for baby names for baby supplies. So then you do online searches for Sasquatch and lighthouses and Vikings and UFOs so that your ads are more interesting than these insipid baby supply ads. You download Hemingway or Scrivener or another software to keep you focused on your page and block you from scrolling during your writing sessions. You hang a sign on your doorknob trying to beg your family to leave you alone while you're writing. You have limited success with your sign. You escape to the library or a coffee shop or a parking lot close to your kid's school, any place that you can get some words on your screen. You get into the groove with your story, and then you add 6 more POV characters. You go through your manuscript and use a different font for each POV character, just to be fun. And then you realized you've accidentally switched POV and a handful of chapters during the Great Font Experiment. Then you learn what head hopping means, and you'll never be able to read books by certain published authors again without noticing it. You abandon half of your POVs, and you switch age category. You start watching teen movies to get into the YA mindset. You become very afraid for our future, and you switch your age category back. You realize that your current story defies genre. So you think for a hot minute about how maybe your story could be the next Outlander. And then you research how long it took for Diana Gabaldon to find a home for Outlander. And that was way back in the 1990s. And you vow to self-publish your masterpiece if you can't find a publisher for it. You picture yourself selling stapled together copies of your manuscript on street corners and in the subway. And then you realize that even decent musicians don't get paid well in the subway, which is really no place to sell novels. How will anyone know if you're a good writer while walking by you while you're waving your manuscript? You realize that even indie authors use genre categories for marketing, and this will be a really tough sell. So you research novel genres and you fall into a research rabbit hole. You find the closest genre fit and start thinking of your story as that genre. You bristle against the genre norms. You rage against the injustice of the system while you see that other people get book deals who are not that great writers. So then you submit your DNA to a database to see if you are related to some famous people so that you could glom onto them and help launch your book. Then after you send that, you realize that famous people aren't putting their DNA in databases looking for more family to latch onto them. And you attempt to remove your data from this DNA database. And it now says that it's private, but anybody could have accessed it when it was public, or someone at the data bank, or the government. You could be the next Haylock. Someone could be cloning you right now as we speak. And you think, hey, maybe that's a cool premise. I could write a different novel. And you switch to sci-fi and you start writing the accidentally cloned story. You spend an entire holiday weekend binge watching Orphan Black and Clone High and Kyle XY. And then you start getting show recommendations exclusively for this new genre to the chagrin of your family. You read a few best-selling novels in your new genre and you try to write a new opening scene. You realize this genre is impossible to write and you decide you don't know how to write a novel. So you take some writing classes. You consider getting an MFA. You research the time and cost investment it takes to get an MFA. and you dedicate yourself to independent study. You get some books on writing craft. You read one, or at least part of one, and you practice what you're reading. You write a short story, then you write another short story. You enter a flash fiction contest. You take a vacation day from your day job to work on this writing contest. You tell your coworkers you're taking this PTO to write. You write for 48 straight hours and turn in a masterpiece of flash fiction. And then you realize that you misread one of the prompts the minute that you hit send. But there's no time to fix it. So there she goes. You wallow a bit in your blanket fort, but not for long. You have to go back to work. So you send a copy of your flash fiction to your coworkers who ask about it. You are never able to make eye contact with some of those coworkers again, but you need to work with some of them. So you both silently agree to never speak of it again. Next time you need to take PTO to write, you make up a different excuse. Coming up with these excuses taps your creative juices. You think about writing a new story based on one of your PTO excuses. You buy a fancy notebook and some new pens. You start writing that story, but you realize that writers writing stories about writers writing is a bit overdone. So you abandon it. You have no good ideas and you need someone to give you a writing prompt. So you enter another flash fiction contest. This time you read the prompts thoroughly and you make it to the second round, but you don't make it to the finals. You read the winning flash fiction and see that it's a literary and very moody piece, and you decide that you like yours better anyway. You post on social media about your writing life. You try about a dozen different social media platforms looking for your writing pals. You meet some complete weirdos. You block all those dudes who claim to be nice guys who have pictures of themselves with their dogs and their car or in a surgical mask and sipping wine. You consider leaving social media entirely and getting a manual typewriter. You try actually using a manual typewriter, and then you abandon it in frustration after your second typo because that was really quite inconvenient. I say this as a person who learned how to type on a typewriter. So then you figure out how hashtags work, and you pick up a handful of mutual followers who are writers on a few platforms. You make some friends with these writers that you meet online and realize that some of these writing friends could be critique partners. You think about joining a writing group, and you search for a writing group on Meetup or online, and you could even form a writing group if you can't find one. You talk about your novel with your writing group, and you find new favorite brands of tea, and you learn about writing sprints. You set up some sprints with your writing pals, but then one of your pals won't stop talking during the sprints, so you all set up a second Zoom meeting without them, and the chatty author finds out, and it's awkward. But you get back to writing your novel. You keep revising the first 20 pages until they're perfect, and then you realize that perfection is an illusion. You keep moving forward anyway. You make it to the soggy middle of your story, and you realize it's dull. So you throw in some tropes and mix it up a bit. And then you add too many tropes, and there's no room for plot and character development. You make a list of your many subplots. You stop counting when you get to 12, and you vow to trim by at least half of them. You decide you need to try plotting. So you try Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and then you try Story Genius, and then you try the Snowflake method. I like all of these, by the way. But then you come up with your own method for organizing your story, and you keep writing. You break through the 50,000 word mark, and you keep going, and you finish that first draft of your work in progress. You type the end, even though you know that this novel is nowhere near done. But you are now a novelist because you have written a novel. Congratulations. Even if you're the only person who ever reads it, if you have written a novel, you are a novelist. You crack open that champagne or bubbly cider to celebrate because less than 3% of people who say they want to write a novel actually finish one. Then you start revising that work in progress. You send it to your critique partners or some beta readers, and you get some feedback, and then you cry, and you resolve to find better critique partners or beta readers. Then you have some chocolate or vice of your choice, and then you read that feedback again. You look up the word infodump and realize maybe you shouldn't have put your entire story universe Bible into your 40-page prologue. You rethink having a prologue at all. Then you decide that all those prologue haters can stick it, and you're going to keep yours. But you trim it down to 4 pages, and you revise that work in progress and get more feedback. And you figure out what show don't tell me. You search for all the filter words and try to replace them. And you buy the emotional thesaurus to try to show rather than tell your character's emotions. I love all these resources, by the way. But then you go overboard with this and have scenes with characters that are practically playing charades with the readers. You dial it back a bit and find a good balance of show and tell. Then you revise it again until the plot and the character arcs are perfect. Then you shift your focus to line edit, run your manuscript through Pro Writing Aid and or Grammarly, and you realize that you used the word that 3,057 times in your manuscript. This is a true story. And you embark on a campaign to remove all the that's that you can, and you remove over 2,000 of them, because sometimes you just don't need all of that. Then you embark on a campaign to eradicate all of the adverbs in a quest that would make Stephen King smile. I don't know if that's possible, but Stephen King would be in favor of eradicating your adverbs. But then you decide, King is a hack. I'm going to keep all my adverbs, except when you could maybe remove them by replacing them with a stronger verb, which is a whole lot of them, by the way. And then you buy a dictionary or two of action verbs. And these are very helpful. Then you learn what a Tom Swiftie is. And you spend an entire day bringing joy to others with your Tom Swiftie puns. I forgot what I needed at the store, Tom said listlessly. If you don't know what a Tom Swiftie is, that was one, but go look it up. But we're revising. So we try printing our full manuscript so that you can proofread it by hand. And then you kill your pathetic little printer and you realize the cost of replacement toner is higher than the cost of a new printer. You try putting your manuscript into Comic Sans font to better be able to spot typos and missed words. And then you realize that no amount of improving your manuscript is worth having to read 85,000 words in Comic Sans. So you try reading out loud and you cringe at the sounds of your own words coming out of your mouth. Then you wonder if your family or neighbors are recording you and you stop reading out loud. Then you use Microsoft Word's read aloud feature and have the program read the story to you with headphones. You listen with your hand hovering over the pause button. You find and correct roughly 2 additional errors on every page that you didn't catch with your first dozen or so read-throughs of your story. You wonder what else is lurking in these pages, but you decide enough is enough. And you submit it to a writing contest or 12, and then you wait, and then you wait some more. I hope you have a comfy chair. We're waiting. Finally, you hear back from one. Then you say, hey, I'm going to enter the RevPit annual contest. True story. I entered it as a writer. Meet some other writers in RevPit's online writing community, and then fight back against your jealousy when the winners are announced. But you've met some people. Your writing community is growing. You consider working with an editor, and you keep writing. Then you enter an online pitch event. You get a like from a publisher that you've never heard of. You research that publisher online and find a scathing write-up and writer beware. You've dodged a bullet. You repeat ad nauseum until you feel confident in your pages. You decide that your manuscript is close enough for trial querying. You draft a query letter. You doubt everything. You draft a synopsis. And then you have to visit your hairstylist to fix what happened to your hair when you tried to write this synopsis and you pulled it all out. You send a mitt full of queries. Then you check your email every 10 minutes for the next 4 to 6 months while you wait to hear back. You get some form rejections. Then you attend an online writing conference and you enter a snippet from your story in their cliffhanger contest. You have a professional audiobook narrator read your cliffhanger snippet and realize it doesn't sound half bad when someone else besides you and Siri is reading it. It actually sounds pretty good. During the online writing conference, someone's non-writer significant other who just happened to be listening next to them on the couch reaches out to praise your story and wonders when it's coming out. You spend the rest of the day beaming for having won over a fan. This is a true story. You want to get your words in front of more people. You attend a writing conference in person. You cower in your hotel room, afraid you'll spew nonsense in front of an agent. Then you leave your hotel room as you came to mingle. You overpay for food and drinks at the lobby bar. Then you say something dumb in the hotel lobby bar. And then you look right over and you see the agent that you're pitching to tomorrow at the next table, just as you put your whole foot in your mouth. Then you attempt to change your looks entirely overnight. You pitch your manuscript to that agent. You hang out by the agent pitch area and pick up a few more pitch appointments for good measure and for practice. You narrowly avoid signing up to pitch to someone who doesn't even take your genre because you remember to always research before pitching. You second guess your business cards just as you're handing it to an agent who's requested it. Back at the lobby bar, you debate with other writers whether you should have used your pen name or your legal name on your business cards. Then you go on Vistaprints and see if you can get new cards delivered to your conference hotel overnight. You see that you can, but the price is almost as ludicrous as the cost of a mixed drink at this hotel lobby bar. And you vow to get new cards before your next conference. You hand out your current business cards to all your new writers' friends anyway. And you leave the conference with a bunch of new writing pals and possibly a hangover. Depends how you conference. Then you run into some of the authors that you met at the airport. and you hide from them because you're in travel clothes, not your cute and coordinated conference outfits. And you vow to get cuter travel outfits. Bookish t-shirts work really well for that. Piper and Ivy, always love them. Then you return to your writing tape and you tell your writing group about your good news and your bad news. You enjoy the commiseration you got from your bad news and you write some more and you send out more query letters. And you receive a request for a partial manuscript and you get a polite pass. You receive several requests for a full manuscript and you get a form rejection. And you have some agents completely ghost you after requesting a full. And you eat some chocolate, again, to cover up the taste of your disappointment. And you start another novel. And maybe you change genre, but you keep writing. And you meet with your writing pals and you stay motivated. And you enjoy the ride. All right, that was my intended to be humorous and only slightly autobiographical poem, Writing Resolutions for the New Year by Miranda Darrow. If you are interested in more writing, editing, and writing life content, I post videos here on this YouTube channel at once a week. I also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to on my website, which is mirandadarrow.com. Happy writing.